Greetings, programmers. Busted Thumbs is back again for our 4th episode of writing a memory game in Scratch. And once again with me,
Hi!
Happy Wishes is here, my daughter. And we spent the last episode doing a lot of artistic work. We put together the tiles or cards that we need for our memory game. So now we need to do some things with it. So we're going to get back into the code again. And when we left off, I'll show you what our game looks like when we actually play it. I'll make it the full screen here and I'll hit play. As you recall, we've got these buttons that tell us which size of game we want to play, small, medium, or large. But we've got one of those tiles back there too, and we don't want that. But when you click any one of these, it should switch us to the next screen, which it does. Our tile card is still there because he's being kind of dumb. We haven't given him any instructions yet. So the only thing we really need to change about this right now is to make that guy go away. And then we'll start working with actually managing our game board. So let's bring it back down and stop the program. Just while we're at it here, we'll quickly clean this up. We'll go into the scripts for the card, and we'll remember that there are 2 events that we need to handle on pretty much all of our sprites. And that is to initialize the data and to lay out either the tile screen or to lay out the board game, the game board. So actually all we really need to do right now is make sure that this guy just hides himself. When we lay out the title screen, we don't need to see that guy at all. And I think right now, if you'll see that when we go ahead and play, he's gone. Now he doesn't come back, and we'll have to do something to make him come back at some point. But that's good enough for us for now. Now we're going to work on, today, what we're going to work on is putting the right number of cards in the right number of places and shuffling them around so that we always have a random board. To do that, we're going to work with some lists. The first list that I need is to know all the costumes that we're going to work with. We could do this by numbers. We could say costume 3 up through costume 17 or something like that. But that's, it's kind of hard. If something goes wrong and we find out that costume 7 is the wrong one, it means we have to go look up what costume 7 is. So I think it might be easier just to work with the names of each one of those guys. And that means that when we get started, we're going to have to do one. We're going to have to set this list up. So we're going to create a custom block called initialize the tile names, and we're going to call that when we initialize the data. And that simply is going to clear out the list. So there's one inside here. Delete all tile names. We'll get rid of all of that, and then we have to do 15 sets to it, right? We have to insert and the name of the things into tile names. Now we don't have to put the index, so let's just do add to tile names. So we're going to need to do that 2, 4, 8, 16 minus 1, 15 times. Just like that. But we have to make it match the tiles that we did. So I can't remember all that thing. I'm going to have to go back and look. So what did we do in the costumes? We had first
Snowflake.
The order doesn't match. Snowflake, butterfly, dove, lion. Snowflake, butterfly, dove, lion. So we had snowflake, butterfly, dove, and lion. And then we had
Penguin, parrot, monkey.
Oh, you're good. Penguin, parrot, monkey. I love how you contribute to this. Am I spelling them right?
Yes.
That's good so far? All right. We'll find out pretty soon if I spell them wrong. So then we had duck, octopus, earth, tree. Duck, octopus, earth, tree. Do you remember any more?
Sun, apple, ladybug, frog.
Apple. Ladybug with a D. Frog. Good. There you go.
Done.
So that list, you see that it showed up over here, and that should populate right away. So I'll go ahead and show that to you. It looks like it just has one thing in it. That's not true. It got so big it couldn't fit them all, so it just scrolled down for us. But there it is. That's all the tile names that we have, and we can use that. I call this static list. We're not going to change it at all. It's going to stay the same. That's what I mean by static. But we're going to need another list, and that list for all sprites is actually going to be the board tiles. And the number of things inside of that is going to vary. We don't set that up in the beginning, except that we want to make sure that it's clear. We're going to make sure that we delete everything from board tiles at the beginning of the game. And it's not until we actually click the buttons that we'll actually fill that list in. And the reason for that is because when we click the buttons, that tells us how many tiles it's going to be. So that means when we click that button, we're going to have to do something special with it. We already handle that click. When that sprite is clicked, we say initialize the data for a new game, and we say lay out a new game board. Well, let's let the stage handle that, initializing the data for a new game. It doesn't handle that event at all yet. So when I receive initialize data for a new game, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to read the things. Oh, this is important. We have to make sure that the size is set before it does this, don't we? So let's see, make sure that that does happen first. Yeah. So it sets the size, the rows and the columns first, and then it says initialize data for a new game. So that we can trust now the number, the two data bits that we need to know, which is the number of columns and the number of rows. What we need to do is put the right number of tiles in. So I'm going to need a variable that indexes into my list. This is getting technical, but this is a part of programming. I'm going to basically walk down my list the number of times that I need to, and insert two of those items each time. Right? So if I have a 3x4 grid, that means I need to have 12 tiles, but I need to have 6 images. Right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk down my initialized tile names, and I'm going to put 6 of those in twice each. Snowflake, snowflake, butterfly, butterfly, dove, dove, lion, lion, and down till I get to the 6th one. Okay? That's what we're going to do, and I'm going to show you how I would do that. So I'm going to make a variable called stage index. It's the index variable that the index is where in the list you're working with, and it's done for the stage. We don't need to see that up there. But the very first thing that I'm going to need to do is to make sure that I set that stage index to 1, I believe. It counts from 1 in Scratch. And then I'm going to have to repeat something and do some math. What I'm going to need to do is take the number of rows by the number of columns divided by 2. Right? So we say number of columns, number of rows divided by 2. That's the number of images that we need to put in. Okay? Each time we do that, what we want to do is insert 2 of those. Actually, what I really ought to do is make sure this is really clear. Make sure that board tiles is really. We did it over there, but let's make sure we do it here too. Delete all board tiles. Now let's add to board tiles 2 items from our current index. So we want the item at the stage index of tile names to go into board tiles. Got it?
All right.
And we need to do that twice. So the way to do that is to duplicate that one and do that twice. After we've done that twice, when we go back around to repeat, we have to increase that stage index. Okay? So we need to change stage index by 1. All right. So what this should do is when we're all done, we should be able to see that board tiles has the right number of things in it, and each of them twice. Okay? Let's see if that is working the way we think it should. Right? We're going to play. I'll make it a little bit bigger. We're going to hit small. Well, we can't see that list, so let's make sure that we can see that list. I hit small. We expect small is 3 times 4, right? So there would be 12 items in it, which we do see, and each of them is in there twice. Right? So let's test it again, and let's do medium. Let's play again. It's kind of in the way there. Press medium. And now I got 5 times 4, which is 20. And it still showed up right. And just to be thorough, let's try large. There's 30 of those. And it did show up right. So that did what we expected it to. And what we're going to do when we lay out the game board is just go through this list and put them in there. But and we'll just go left to right, top to bottom. We'll put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then go to the next row and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we'll just go straight down this list. But that's not very exciting, is it? Because this would be pretty easy to figure out. The first 2 would be snowflakes, the second 2 would be butterflies. Player 1 would win every time. So what we have to do is we need to mix it up. We're going to have to like shuffle. It's like taking cards and shuffling them into a random order. So let's write the code that would do that. So we can go ahead and hide you for a minute. After we've done that, we're going to call that populating. Let me go ahead and make a block for it. Initial fill of board tiles. Okay? This would just make it a little clearer. That's what we did there. We did the initial fill of the board tiles, and I'm just going to leave that sitting over here. Initial fill of the board tiles will get called. It'll do the exact same thing we just did. It's just done in another place. And then we want to make another block, which is random shuffle of board tiles. Okay. Put the random shuffle of the board tiles there. So after we fill them, that's when we're going to random shuffle the board tiles. Now this is where it gets a little bit fun. I'm going to have to create another variable. And this is just going to be just here for temporary use. So I'm going to make a stage temporary variable. And you'll see why I have to do that in a minute. Alright, you don't need to necessarily see that guy, let's hide him. What we're going to do is we're going to take the board tiles list and we're going to walk down that list one at a time, all the way down, and we're going to move that item inside of there to a random place inside that list. Make sense?
Yep.
Alright. So the way we're going to have to do that is to do another loop. We're going to have to use stage index again. So stage index is going to go back to 1. And we're going to repeat. We're going to repeat for the length of that list. And we have that length of board tiles. And now we get to use the random number generator. Okay. So we're going to move the item at stage index to a random place. So that means I'm going to need another variable, stage new index. Okay, we're going to have to keep track of that. We're going to set the stage new index to something random. And we have a pick random inside there. And it needs to be between 1 and the size of the list again. So the length of board tiles. And that is back in data, length of board tiles. So it's going to pick a number, and that's where the new one's going to go. And now to do the swap, we can't just swap them. There's no swap inside of a list. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to copy one of them into a temporary place, move one of them to that place that we just copied from, and then put the temporary one back in. Let me show you that. It's a trick we use a lot when we program. So I'm going to need yet another variable. Oh no, I already made it. Stage temporary. That's what that's for. We're going to set stage temporary to the item that's at our pick random place. Stage new index of board tile.
Alright.
So that new random place, we've just copied the thing that's already there. That's fine. That means we can now overwrite it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to insert the item at the stage index into the item at the new stage index of board tiles. So we have to take the item that's at the stage index of board tiles and stick it into the stage new index of board tiles. And that guy just clobbered him, so we'll move him over. Then we have to insert at the stage at the stage index of board tiles the thing which we had in our temporary. And I believe that will randomize our list. Should we check?
All right.
Let's check. It's easy enough to check. We just go back and show our board tiles. Hit stop, hit play. It's empty right now. Do it small. Blanket is 30. Okay, so we made a mistake. I made a mistake here. But that's an easy one to fix, I think. What you'll notice is it's now too long, which means I didn't clear it out. That lion ends up being there a lot of places. So let's take a look. We go in for the length of the board tiles. Set the new into, yep, we got the temporary one from there. We don't want insert, we want replace. That's our problem.
All right.
When we insert it, it's not getting rid of the existing one. It's getting rid of the old one. So let's take those two inserts away and let's use replace. So in this case, what we want to do is we want to replace the item at stage new index with the item from stage index. Oh, and once again we have to move our guy over. And then we want to replace the item at stage index with stage temporary. So this does exactly the same thing as before. I just thought that when you inserted it, you were inserting it on top. You're not. That's what replace is for. So let's try this again. And we'll make it big. We'll hit play. Small. And look at that. Now it's the size that we thought it would be. It's 12. But it's now randomized. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Those things are now in a different order. And it might be even more clear on a bigger list. So let's start over again and let's go with the large one. If you're watching really closely, it looked like it was flashing around a bit. But we don't have the two at the top being the same, the next two being the same, the next two being the same. In fact, the bigger the list, the easier it is to randomize. And there you have it. So it worked. This is exactly what we wanted to have happen. We now have a list that has the tiles in it and they're all randomized the way we want them to be. That's good. You can use this same technique if you're doing any sort of card game where you have a deck of cards and you want to shuffle the deck of cards, or anytime you have a list that you just want to randomize. This little trick right here of keeping track of a new index, keeping track of the item that's at that new index, and then taking the old item, putting it on that new item, and taking the new item and putting it back. That's a trick we use quite a lot in programming. So it might have been a little hard to follow, but the code's right here. You go ahead and take a look at it yourself. Go ahead and try it yourself, and you'll see. It even confused me the first time because I put those inserts in there instead of the replace. It also runs a whole lot faster than what you saw there if we don't have the list being shown. Alright, so did you learn something new this time?
All right. Yeah. Yes.
That's good. In our next one, we'll take these tiles which have been shuffled into this list and we'll make them show up on the screen. Sound good?
Uh-huh.
Alright. Well, that's it for today. We'll sign out and go ahead and give this a try yourself, and we'll see you the next time around. Goodbye.
Bye.